In this module, we will be exploring psychology of emotions, motivation, and personality. And you'll see after I go over this introduction and as you delve into the material for this module how these things are really intertwined and how they connect. Again, you guys are old hat at this. Let's review what is psychology. I'm going to give you a second to think about it. See if you can rehearse it in your head. Okay, well, psychology is the scientific study of the mind and behavior. So one of the first things I want to talk about as far as this module is the idea of affect. So it looks like the word affect, but it's pronounced in the world of psychology as affect. And affect is defined as the experience of feeling or emotion. Affect guides behavior, helps us to make decisions, and has a major impact on our mental and physical health. The two fundamental components of affect are emotions and motivation. And both of these words have the same underlying Latin root, meaning to move. So like to move you to do something. So an emotion is a mental and physiological feeling state that directs our attention and guides our behavior. And motivations are closely related to emotions. A motivation is a driving force that initiates and directs behavior. Motivations are often considered in psychology in terms of drives, which are internal states that are activated when the physiological characteristics of the body are out of balance, and goals, which are desired end states that we strive to attain. So drives, we're driven to do something because there's something about our physiological state of being that's out of balance or out of sync. And goals, which is what we do to get us to that desired end state. So one of the biggest topics of psychology and just our lives in general today is stress. And in the world of psychology, stress is defined as the physiological responses that occur when an organism fails to respond appropriately to emotional or physical threats. Now that definition was created back in the 50s, but it still fits. So our physiological, how our body, our physical persons respond, that occur when an organism, so we should say when we, fail to respond appropriate to emotional or physical threats. So then there's personality. Personality is defined as an individual's consistent patterns of feeling, thinking, and behaving. Think of the personality, your own personality, the personalities of your children or your significant other. Personalities are characterized in terms of traits, which are relatively enduring characteristics that influence our behavior across many situations. Personality traits such as introversion, friendliness, conscientiousness, honesty, and helpfulness are important because they help explain consistencies in behavior. So a personality, consistency is what makes up a personality. And you can see in this picture there's a whole vast array of traits that you could think about when looking at a person's personality. Now, looking at the research and the models that drive what we call personality theory, one of the big ones is called the 5-factor model of personality. And for short, psychologists call it the Big Five. And basically there are 5 fundamental underlying trait dimensions that are stable across time, cross-culturally, shared, and explain a substantial portion of behavior. So basically, research has shown across cultures, across nations, races, in people in general, over the years throughout time, these 5 trait dimensions keep coming up. So what are they? The 5 dimensions, again, also known as the Big Five, are agreeableness, which is we don't use that word very often anymore, but agreeableness, conscientiousness, extroversion, neuroticism, and openness to experience. And it's always good to have a mnemonic device for that, or a acronym, and you can remember them using one of these watery acronyms such as canoe or ocean. So, the Barnum effect refers to the observation that people tend to believe in descriptions of their personality that supposedly are descriptive of them but could in fact describe most anyone. If you're at a Chinese restaurant and maybe you're reading the Chinese horoscope for your year on a placemat or something like that, you might be thinking, oh, that really fits me. But I mean, come on. It's so broad. It's talking about everybody who's born the same year as you. Think of the people you went to school with who were in your same grade who were born the same year as you. Are you trying to, I mean, think about it. Were you like all those people? Of course not. So the Barnum effect is in full view when you're on Facebook. For those of you on social media, there are constantly people posting, taking these quizzes that have no research background, and when it comes up with the results, it's like, oh, that fits me perfectly. Well, that's a good example of the Barnum effect. You can also look at horoscopes, astrology, different fortune telling, all of that fits under the Barnum effect. Okay, and then the Rorschach ink blot test. So a lot of this stuff, as you can hear, are kind of Austrian or German type terms. That's where a lot of it started. But the Rorschach ink blot test is a projective measure of personality in which the respondent indicates his or her thoughts about a series of 10 symmetrical ink blots. And I can tell you, when I see ink blots, sometimes people have, let's face it, have dirty minds and come up with some really out there things. I tend to see animals. Now, I'm not the kind of psychologist that really gets into personality interpretation, so me seeing animals, I'm not really sure what that means. But if you look at the image on the top, the top left, to me that looks like two elephants high-fiving with their trunks. But you may see different things. Now, there are lots of other tests as well, and as you go through the readings, you'll see them. One is the MMPI, which is the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory. It is probably the most well-known, comprehensive, and research-backed assessment to look at personality disorders and defects. And there are others. The Myers-Briggs Type Indicator looks at things like introversion and extroversion, but those are just a few examples of very common personality assessments. So I challenge you as you go through, the readings and this module to think about emotions, think about personality, think about individuals who may have personality disorders, who may have unstable personalities. Think of like a bipolar personality. Those people with that are typically very inconsistent in their personality. It's not set. But other people who are tried and true. You may have a child who from the time they were young were just as stubborn as can be and always have been. So just think of these concepts in the world around you and enjoy this material as you go along. Thanks.